Welcome back to the Zero to Clients podcast. I am your host, Lori Kennedy. And in this episode, I am going to be answering your questions. So I polled my community and my clients, and I said, hey, I'm doing an Ask Me Anything episode. And they submitted some really good questions. So if you are struggling with things like balancing your work life with your home life, if you are wondering how to manage it all being an introvert and not burning out, if you want to know how to pick your niche and how to get started on social media or creative ways to enroll people without feeling salesy, this episode is going to have it all. So if you have not yet subscribed to the Zero to Clients podcast, I would love for you to subscribe and rate and review the show so that you don't miss any future episodes. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right. So this is going to be a fun one. We're going to go personal business, and we'll see how much I can get through in, the next 30 minutes or so. I love doing these type of AMA, Ask Me Anything episodes because it gives me a chance just to riff. It gives me a chance just to sort of think on my toes and answer questions based on what you are struggling with, not what I think you are struggling with, but what you are telling me you are struggling with. So the first question is a really good one that I know is going to be applicable to so many people. So the question is, what's your mindset for navigating mom life and being a business owner? My kids are still little and I want to be intentional about both. I find myself overthinking when I have some free time, thinking I need to use the time to build my business and put in the work, or should I spend it with my kids? So this is a very common thing that happens, unfortunately, for women business owners. And I say women business owners because I've been in masterminds with many, many men and who have families and who have children. And I know that the mental load of parenting for those men anyway, the, couple of dozen that I've surveyed, I haven't obviously spoke to all men, but it seems like the mental load is very different for women who are parents, mothers, than men. I know that when I was mentoring back in the day, my two business coaches were men. One had children, the other did not. And I used to ask the male mentor who had children, I would say, do you ever feel guilty? And he looked at me like I was a Martian. And he was like, no, why? Why would I feel guilty? And so there is a difference, in my opinion, in my experience, there is a difference when you are a man with a family building a business versus a woman with a family building a business, especially for those of us who are also the primary parents, right? If we are the primary parent and we are working in a 9 to 5 and we are trying to build a business, the reality is your mental load is maxed. Like you likely don't have time for hobbies or extracurriculars or socializing or things of that nature because you are at max capacity. I know that was true for me when I was in my nutrition practice full time. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week as a nutritionist. I had different locations that I was running my signature program, Wow Weight Loss, out of. I also had a small child, like a baby, and I had two kids actually when I went online. So my daughter was 2.5 and my son was like 3 months old. And my marriage was ending and I was at max capacity. I didn't hang out with friends on Saturday night. I didn't have hobbies. I didn't do anything other than work, parent, and then work on my new online business. I literally didn't do anything else. I did the bare minimum to get by in terms of laundry and household chores and things like that. So I think that when we operate that way, when we have kids and we do the bare minimum in life, we feel like a failure because societal expectations are such that, especially for women, that you should have a clean home and your laundry should be neatly done and put away and not worn right out of the dryer, and cooking meals and making sure everybody's eating whole foods and taking care of your body and having a 90-minute morning routine with a cold plunge and a meditation and all of these things. And when you aren't operating that way, at least for me, I sort of felt like I was doing it wrong because I didn't I didn't do anything else for a season. And so what I'm saying to you is it's a season. So now I have way more free time. Like I have a ton of time now. And so I think when you are in that season of initially building your business, and you have children or you have sick parents or you have whatever other responsibilities you have where your time is not your own, you have to just surrender to doing the bare minimum in life and recognizing that for this season that will probably last about 3 years as you're building, that you are going to have to just prioritize time with your children. And when you're with your children and when you're with your spouse, you are with them. And then you will also have to prioritize time working on and in your business. And when you are doing that, you are not with your kids, you are not with your spouse, you are, in my opinion, outside of the home so that you can focus and you are not interrupted. One of the things that I realized early on was that if I wanted to work while I had my children with me, I would not be able to do anything that was like deep flow work. I would not be able to do anything that allowed me to get into like a creative flow. It was like answering emails, scheduling things, like more admin-y things, because my attention was primarily on my children and not the business. So an example of that was like when I would take my kids to a play place, and I would be sitting on the floor in the play place with my laptop, and they're like running around the play place, and I'm, keeping my eye on them. I'm not in deep work, but I can answer emails. I can research. I can do tech things. Like I can do things that don't require deep work because I'm going to be interrupted every 3 minutes. And for a season, that was okay. Now my kids are older. They understand, right? They understand that if I say to them, I need 2 hours, do not interrupt me. Otherwise, what I'm doing is going to take 3 hours. They now respect that. So I think the idea that you're doing it wrong has to go out the window, because I am telling you, for those of us who are women who have a maxed out mental load, the way that you live and the way that you operate is going to look radically different than the norm. And therefore, you're going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like you're doing it wrong because you're not operating like everyone else. And that is okay. You are not operating like everyone else. Not everyone else is trying to grow a business. They're just working and coming home and doing their thing, and they don't have that extra voice inside their head where the ambition doesn't turn off. Like even when you're at your day job or even when you're with your children, that voice of like, well, I should be doing this and I should be doing this and I da 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 da, because it's a part of you. Just like, and I use this example all the time, just like as a parent, just when you're not with your kids, you still are thinking, I have to call the doctor, I have to call the dentist. Did they take their shoes? It's going to be cold out. I hope he took a jacket. Like it's the same thing, right? Your mind, just because you're not physically with your child doesn't mean that you stop being a parent. Just because you're not physically working on your business doesn't mean you stop being a business owner, whether you're in startup mode or not. So my advice is to figure out a schedule that works. where either you're doing work when you're with your children and they're occupied, or you are having someone else watch them. I had somebody else in the comments on my Instagram, I think it was, saying that they felt really guilty hiring a babysitter so that they could go and work. And one of the things that I realized that my therapist actually told me a long time ago was that it's not a bad thing for someone else to love up on your children so that you can go and build your future. It's not a bad thing to delegate childcare to someone else who's going to take care of your children, who's going to love your children, who's going to give them different experiences so that you can go and focus on what you need to do. So I took that to heart, and I would ask people, I would ask my parents, I would ask friends, I would arrange play dates for my kids. And instead of going home and doing laundry, and instead of going and grocery shopping, I would work. And that's the season, right? That's the season that I was in. And I would do it all over again in a heartbeat, because my life right now is freaking ridiculous. Like, it is mind-blowing that this is my life. And it's not by accident. It's because I dedicated that period of time, that season, at the very beginning, because I knew that this is how it was going to turn out, because this is how I wanted it to turn out. And so just know that if your mental load is maxed and people are like, why don't you take a break? Why don't you this? And you don't want to take a break, and you want to dedicate this season of life to like going all in, do it. Do it and ignore what everyone is saying to you, because it will look different than everyone else around you, but you are not like everyone else around you. You are trying to build a business that will change the trajectory of your life. So naturally, it's going to look and feel different for you. You're not doing anything wrong. I could talk about this all day. But I hope that that was helpful. So we're going to just acknowledge that you might feel guilty. We're going to acknowledge that people might make comments. We're going to acknowledge that it's going to feel a little bit chaotic. We're going to acknowledge that there's always going to be this duality inside of your brain. And just know that this is completely normal for you, because you are building a business. And when somebody else, is like, oh, wow, that seems really stressful, you're just going to be like, it's amazing, because it is. It is amazing. Even when it's hard, it's amazing, because you are doing something that the average normal person isn't doing. And it will turn out better than you could have ever imagined. And you will thank yourself for being in the weeds for a couple of years. So there you go. Okay. I hope that message reaches who it needs to reach. We're going to go personal business. So business now, this is actually a really good one. How to audit your program to improve it and keep it highly relevant to your purple ducks. So that's a really interesting question. And it's actually two very separate questions, although most people wouldn't think that they're two separate questions, but it is. The first part of the question is how to audit your program, how and when to audit your program, period. The second question, so that is around program delivery and program results, client results. And then the second part is how to keep it highly relevant for your purple ducks. That is marketing. That actually has nothing to do with your program content. I shouldn't say it has nothing. You have to have a program to be able to market it, but keeping it highly relevant is marketing. That's not program delivery. Two separate things. So I will answer them separately. So how and when to audit your program. So In my experience, and I've been doing this for a long time, I created my first online coaching program in 2008, 2009. Not online, offline. Sorry, it just rolls off my tongue now. Offline, it's Wow Weight Loss, and it was my nutrition program. And I worked with menopausal women who just wanted to lose weight without giving up wine, chocolate, or popcorn. And I never audited my program. I always adjusted and updated my program based on client feedback because I can't audit my own program. I actually wouldn't recommend you audit your own program because you are not your ideal client. And what you think is easy, they think is hard. What you think is clear, they think is confusing. So I would never personally audit the program. I would put people through the program and collect feedback and listen. Listen to what they're saying to you. If there are parts of the client experience which are clunky, if there are parts of the client of the content of the protocol which are creating resistance or challenge or low compliance, you will hear about it. You will hear people complain. You will say, this is hard, this is challenging, I can't do this. And what you're listening for is repetitive complaints about the same thing. So, for example, in terms of onboarding and the client experience, you might get some feedback from clients that say something like, I'm very frustrated because I couldn't log in, and this was very difficult, and it took me 17 minutes to log in. And if you hear that 2 or 3 times, there's validity to that. And then you listen and you pay attention and you say, oh, I'm getting constructive feedback. Instead of crying about it and instead of getting really upset about it, this isn't good and my program sucks and they don't think I'm a professional, you're like, wow, amazing. Thank you so much for the constructive feedback. I wasn't aware. I am on this immediately. I care about your client experience and I will absolutely do what I can to rectify the situation. I can completely appreciate that this would be so frustrating for you. The tech is new to me. I'm working on it. And so you pay attention to what your clients are saying to you. You pay attention to their frustration. You pay attention to their words. And from there, you keep notes, right? If one person, we have a saying in Zero to Clients, which is my all-inclusive 6-month business coaching program. And we have a saying that says, we don't change anything because one person complained, right? One person, even if it's your only client, we change nothing for one person. You need at least 3 people to say the same thing, have the same or similar complaint in order to look into it. Because one person is an anomaly, right? One person, no. But if 3, 4, 5 people are having an issue and they're giving you feedback, even if the feedback is mean, even if they could have done it in a more productive way, which most people can, they just don't. Most people, when they're frustrated, they're mean. Then we say, oh, okay, so this is clearly an issue and I need to work on the client experience, or I need to go back and I need to update this module because I'm including too many action steps or the explanation isn't clear. So I don't recommend that you audit. I recommend that you ask for client feedback and you listen for client feedback. And then from there, you make the necessary adjustments either to the client experience overall or to particular areas in your curriculum, in your protocol. Now, the second part of this question is how to keep it highly relevant for your purple ducks. So in ZTC, we call our ideal client purple ducks. So if you ever hear me refer to your purple ducks, just know that I'm talking about your ideal client. So that's a really good question. And it comes down to attention. So, and I think it's 2 things. How do you keep your audience attention so that they would want to enroll into your online coaching program? And then how do you keep your clients motivated to follow through with the program? And again, those are very different skill sets, right? So being able to continuously market to your audience, to your email list, to your social media following, that's marketing. right? That is lead gen, that is marketing, that is keeping attention, that is moving your prospects from the lead in your lead to client journey by having marketing events, right? Holding attention. Me recording this live podcast is me essentially marketing, and it's creating attention and it's holding attention in a different way than me, let's say, running a live course or me running a webinar. I'm still getting attention, right, from my audience, which is what we want. So we need to be able to create and hold attention from our audience so that we stay top of mind, so that when they are ready to enroll, they're like, yep, I'm going to enroll in Zero to Clients. I've been consuming her content for a year. I'm finally ready. And because I market daily, I am now top of mind. So the same thing goes for you. That is one type of skill set. The other type of skill set is the coaching skill set. And that is you understanding the psychology of your client transformation journey and where your clients struggle, and the type of accountability and the type of support and the type of community that they need to keep them motivated, to keep them engaged, to keep them continuing to participate in the community, to show up for coaching calls, to do the work. Now, with that being said, there's always going to be, always, I don't care how good your program is, it does not matter. There will always be a percentage of people who do not participate, always. So if you have clients that go MIA, missing in action, it is not a reflection of you and the quality of your program. It is something that will happen. You will have a percentage of clients that will pay to work with you and then never show up. It's small, but that will happen. So we're not worried necessarily about those people. We're worried about the people who are doing the work at 10%, doing the work at 25%, doing the work at 50% to show up. So how to keep them engaged so it's relevant to the Purple Ducks on the front end before they enroll is marketing. And how to keep them engaged while going through the program is accountability and support. They're very different, right? They're very different because you have people who you need to keep attention, who are prospects, who are leads, who are not yet clients, and then you have clients. So that was a really great question. And I hope that in me answering it the way that I did, you are able to see the different skill sets that are needed, that when we sort of put those skill sets together, that is what creates success. It's not just having one type of skill set. There is a lot of different skill sets that are needed in order for you to be successful. Okay, we're going to go back to the personal now, and this is such a good one. How to manage it all as an introvert and not burn out. So this person is managing 2 Facebook groups, posting to them, coaching clients one-on-one, hybrid model, which we call the fusion, trying to finish and launch online masterclass, Facebook ads, doing local workshops, creating them, creating monthly content for email, social media, while working other full-time jobs. I love this. So for those of you that don't know, I am a hardcore introvert. I'm also a hermit. There's this thing called human design. Not everybody knows about it. I did my human design, I don't even know how long ago. And basically it told me I was a 6'2", which is a role model and a hermit. And I was like, yes, that just, if you need to know who I am a role model and I am also a hermit. I think I'm socially awkward because when we're in groups, I don't really talk. Like, I don't make small talk. I don't feel the need to. I don't feel bad about it. I don't talk to people just so that they don't feel uncomfortable by the silence. I am an introvert, but I'm not shy. And so the interesting thing about being an introvert and being a hermit is that I am very aware that I need alone time to recuperate. So one of the things that I realized a long time ago, it's that the business in and of itself, at least for me, the business never burns me out, ever. It's not the business. I could work 16 hours a day. I freaking love what I do. I am obsessed with what I do. It's my life outside of my work that creates stress, that creates challenge. If I could just literally be a hermit and just only talk to people on my terms, I would be the happiest person. That's the truth. And so it is the mental load again of having to live in the world. It's the mental load of all of the responsibilities that we have. For me, at least, and I want to answer this question honestly, the work never burns me out. I don't mind. I like being busy. I like having a full plate. I like when my day is slammed. Um, I like to feel productive. And I think the idea is if you are an introvert and you have sort of a bandwidth max, then you have to honor that. And so for me, the way that I've been able to do it is with my morning routine is I wake up at 5 a.m. and I work until 7. So I get 2 hours of no one talking to me, alone time in the morning, basically 6 days a week. Sometimes 7 if I have a big project. I'm not as rigid about it on the weekends. But my body has now a natural alarm clock because I've been doing this since 2012. So I wake up at 5 and I have 2 hours of alone time to get a lot of what I need to get done. Like in those 2 hours, I write an email, I create a social media post. Both of those things get scheduled, and I likely work on one other task in that time period. I don't batch content. I can't do it. My brain doesn't work that way, and I don't like it. So in that 2 hour period, I actually get a substantial amount of things done because during my day, I'm on Zoom, I'm with clients, I have meetings. I don't have space to do that deep work that I need to do. And then I go into mom mode. So for me, what's been really critical is taking time in the morning to do quiet work, going for a walk first thing in the morning, moving my body. I don't listen to business podcasts. I don't do anything to stimulate my brain when I'm walking. I actually listen to like a fantasy audiobook. I listen to something that is self-care, that is pleasure. I do not do anything to stimulate my brain because I need that introvert time. I need that downtime. So when I'm moving my body, when I'm walking my dog, for example, in the morning, I don't stimulate my brain. When I walk my dog after my workday is done, that is sort of like my transition time. I don't stimulate my brain. So I have these transition times in my day. I have my morning routine. Then I have, after I drop the kids off at school, I have that transition time when I walk the dog and I eat breakfast. And then I have the transition time after my workday. After I pick up the kids, I walk the dog, and that's my transition time. The other thing that I will say that has really helped me as someone who is an introvert, as someone who, is on Zoom all day and is extroverting, is I schedule 30 minutes to eat lunch every day. And that is a non negotiable for me. And that might sound silly, but it's really helped. I leave my home office, I leave my computer, I come downstairs and I have a full 30-minute break in my workday. I make lunch, I sit there, I either listen to my audiobook, I watch a show while I eat, I go outside to eat, I finish eating, I do the dishes, I go outside for 10 minutes. Like I take that time in my workday. It is a non-negotiable. I used to eat like on the go. I used to like bring my lunch to my computer. I'm like, this is not normal. Like this is not okay. I deserve to have a lunch break. Like, and again, it comes back to if you heard my words, I deserve to eat without stress. I deserve to nourish my body. I deserve to have some downtime. I deserve to have some transition. So, you know what works for you. You just have to put it into action. You have to put it into action. And if you are feeling tapped out, you have to communicate to your friends and to your family, and you have to say, listen, I would love to. I don't have the energetic capacity right now to show up as in a way that I would be proud of. I would be moody. I would be irritable. My social battery is empty. I need an hour to recharge and I will meet you there in an hour. Or even say to your kids, like I've said this many times, I'm done. We sort of have a rule in my house when anyone says I'm done, because my kids also are pretty introverted. When anyone says I'm done, we know that it's like off limits. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me what you want for dinner. Don't ask me when you can do this. Don't ask me when you can do that. I will tell you when I am okay. And when I say I'm done, I will usually go into my room, I will shut the door, and I will play solitaire on my phone, or I will do something on my phone. I'll go for a walk. I'll do something. So I think it's more about knowing yourself and implementing strategies so that you can support yourself while you do this. Because I'll tell you, the workload, it doesn't go down, right? You're never going to not have a workload, especially if you have your own business. There's always going to be stuff to do. That's not going to decrease. So the question becomes, how can you support yourself so that you don't burn out? That's the question, because it's never about how do I manage the workload. Like, probably you could optimize some of the things that you're doing. You could probably repurpose a lot of the content that you're doing so that you don't have to create as much content. But if you want to have your own business, you have to have the expectation that there's always going to be a never-ending to-do list. There's always going to be problems that arise. There's always going to be fires that need to put out, because that's normal when you're running your business. And so the idea then becomes, okay, well, what do I need to support myself so that I can keep up, so that I can be resilient, so that I can build up a level of resiliency, which I actually think is a muscle. Like, I have seen this. I have trained myself to handle hard things for longer periods of time without burning out. And I know that we can do that. We can train. It's like exposure therapy for real. It's like exposure therapy. If you have a low tolerance for extroverting for stress, you have to expose yourself to these circumstances with strategies to be able to build up a tolerance to them so that you can handle it, right? So that you can go a full day to a workshop that you're hosting and not feel like you want to die after, and not feel like you need 3 days to recover. It's building up a tolerance. So I think that's the idea, is if you are on the introverted side, if you are a highly sensitive person, if you are a hermit, if you are drained by interacting with the world, we have to put strategies in place to build up a tolerance to it if you want to be successful, because you can't hide if you own a business. So thank you for asking that question, and I hope the answer was helpful. Okay, last one, and we're going to go back to the business side of things. We are going to talk about how to sort of sell without being salesy. And I know this is a big topic of conversation for a lot of people, because in alternative health and coaching, I hear this all the time. I don't want to feel salesy. I don't want to feel salesy. And one of the things that I explain right off the hop is there's a difference between self-promotion and selling. So self-promotion feels salesy. Work with me, buy my thing. Self-promotion, devoid of a relationship, devoid of providing value, feels gross. Because then it feels desperate. Then it feels like, and you can sort of tell, right? You can tell when somebody's desperate for the sale, because all they're really talking about is themselves and the features, and that reeks of desperation. Versus when somebody is properly marketing their offering, they are talking about the value that the client will experience. Here's what you will get from working with me. Here's the outcome you will receive from working with me. Here's why my program is different. Here's the results that I was able to get. Here's the results that somebody else is able to get. This is why I created my program this way. Here's a sneak peek. Here's what you'll find in my program that you won't find in other people's programs. Here's 3 things I bet you didn't know about this circumstance, this condition that you have. Marketing in that way is very different than a lead coming into your world and immediately buy my thing, work with me. It's 60 minutes. It's this, it's that. You get 60 minutes. You also get 15 PDFs. You also get, a Facebook group. Those things aren't valuable to anybody. Nobody knows the value of coaching if they've never been coached. Nobody knows the value of community if they've never been in a community before. And so being able to enroll clients comes down to several things, one of which is the skill set of being able to market your offering in a way that you are consistently providing value and then extending a call to action, which is an invitation for them to take the next step. That is very different than saying, work with me, it's on sale, buy my thing, and there's no relationship there. You've provided no value. So, what we teach practitioners and coaches inside of Zero to Clients, which is my 6-month all-inclusive business coaching program, is we teach you how to market. We teach you how to nurture your audience using email marketing, using social media marketing, using content, using stories, using your own experiences. And that builds the relationship with your audience and then moving them into that next stage, right? Really understanding your lead to client journey. What is that journey? What do your leads, your prospects need to know and understand about their condition in order to say yes to you? And most practitioners and coaches have no clue about this. They just educate, right? They educate as if they are a teacher, a lecturer on meditation, on an elimination diet. They educate, and that is not the same thing. Education doesn't create an emotional response. Here's the thing. People say yes to a purchase using emotion and they justify it using logic, right? So emotionally, I really need this, I need this, I need this. And you feel that like need, right? You feel that instant gratification. You feel the FOMO when you don't have the thing. We feel these things and then we justify it logically. Well, I needed it because, right? I really needed this purse because you didn't need a purse. You just wanted it, right? But we justify things logically. So we need to get our audience to feel things, and then we need to back up their investment logically by helping them to understand that if they choose to do nothing, in 3 years, here's what it's going to look like. That's logic, where they can go to then their spouse and say, well, here's why I invested this money. I invested this money because I have this condition. And if I don't do anything about it in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, here's where I'm going to be. Do you want that for me? No. So, yeah, I invested this money. Again, I needed to do it. I felt like this was the right thing. And here's why. So you can even hear it in our language, right? I need to do this. I want to do this. And here's why. I need to do this. I want to do this is emotion. And here's why is logic. And so we have to sort of toggle between those two worlds. And this is how we sell without being salesy. It's by talking about your mission. It's by talking about why you wanted to do this in the first place. It's talking about the trial and error. It's talking about the discovery. It's talking about the program. It's talking about why your program is different. It's talking about how you work with clients and the experience. It's talking about the outcomes. It's talking about what will happen if they choose to do nothing. It's talking about how scary it is and validating their human experience about investing and making this decision because they failed before. It's talking about all of that stuff, which is not the same thing as educating someone on fiber or educating someone on breath work. It is not the same thing. And this is where practitioners and coaches struggle the most, is because they, in their minds, marketing is education, and it's not. Like it is, but it's not. And so when we only educate, that does not create an emotional response. And therefore, the audience isn't motivated to go to the next stage. All they're thinking in their mind is, oh, that's interesting or that's helpful. Thank you. And it goes no further than that. So when we talk about selling without being salesy, the solution is learning how to have really strong messaging and learning how to market and learning how to communicate all of the ways in which that the condition, the persistent painful problem, is negatively affecting the primary areas of life, and really talking about that and really demonstrating your knowledge beyond educating, right? Validating their lived experience demonstrates that you know what they're going through, and therefore they are more inclined to trust you. So, selling without being salesy is not self promotion. Selling without being salesy is you building a relationship with your audience by marketing to them over and over and over again. So I hope that one helps. There you have it. We just went through 4 different questions. They were so good. Thank you to everybody who submitted. I have them all on a list, so I will do this again, and I will definitely get to yours over time. So if I did not answer yours today, that's okay. I have them all on a doc. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for hanging out. And I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.